Welcome back to Beyond My Crisis. I'm your co-host, Vivian Gaspar.
And I'm Ron Rossnick. We're talking about how to mitigate health crisis and how to get through it. And we have great guests on today. Our guest today is Kim Weiler, who had a 21-year journey, began when she took matters into her own hands to heal herself of psoriasis, an incurable autoimmune disease. Now, as an internationally certified health coach, Kim is devoted to helping others who struggle with skin conditions through her own business, Healing My Skin. Thank you, Kim. Welcome.
Thank you.
Kim, I have to ask, I understand that people are like, well, how bad is a skin condition that you need to come on a TV and show and talk about it? And I remember asking you that for some people, it can really alter how they live their life. What is psoriasis and how did it really change how you lived your life in the past?
Psoriasis is an autoimmune disease, like Ron said, and it's basically when our immune systems attack themselves. So instead of attacking the army of toxins, allergens, injuries, infections, even stress, it attacks our own cells and tissues. So what's happening with people with psoriasis is that a normal person's skin sheds about once a month when the cells mature, and for people like me, my skin sheds rapidly every few days. So it's causing these layers of these red, thick, scaly, silvery kind of patches or lesions or even spots that are so crazy itchy and honestly make us feel incredibly unattractive.
So how is that debilitating you beyond your ability to even carry your life? I mean, we talk about diseases that people are wheelchair bound. How has this really stopped you from living in the past?
Psychologically.
Okay, that's significant.
In all aspects, really. Some people can't even work because of it. It can be very painful. Luckily, mine doesn't cause me any pain, but it's affected my dating life. For the last 20 years that I've had it, it's affected my dating life. It's affected my work as an actress, because you're walking around with a self-esteem that's just crushed, and you're living in fear of other people's judgment. So all of that amounts to you just not feeling good about yourself, not feeling like enough.
How many people suffer from psoriasis in the country? And really, what are some extreme examples of what that means in their lives that you've encountered?
Well, the National Psoriasis Foundation says that there's 7.5 million people who suffer from it just only in America. And I actually just read on Modern Medicine Network that 10% of those people actually think about committing suicide.
10%?
Wow.
That's 700.
That is significant.
750,000 people.
Because of a skin condition. I mean, I guess they're going back to the old times. They're like, oh my God, I feel like a leper. Because it was visible.
But today we're going to convince them not to, because you have a solution, right?
do.
You have a new book that you wrote.
I did.
It's
my
called,
first book.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you
it's
so
releasing,
much.
right?
But it's called It's All About Love, and you're addressing everything about your condition and how to help people through this.
Yes. Well, two main things. It's my powerful secret healing recipe, and that is I healed myself through nutrition and self-love. So nutrition, what I did was I eliminated out of my diet any food that contained chemicals and any food that caused inflammation. So all those categories, processed food, right? Like all that junk food, dairy, cheese. That was a hard one for me.
No pizza.
Oh, no pizza. Sugar. Sugar's a big one for most
White
people.
sugar, right?
Yes, anything
But raw
white.
sugar is...
I just honestly stayed away from sugar altogether. If I had any, it was from like a plant or a tree, like
What about
dates,
like
fresh fruit.
Or stevia?
Stevia, actually,
Stevia?
Stevia I did use.
And you have this all enumerated in your book. You're guiding people through this process.
Yes. All the more alkaline-based foods that help nourish our cells, rather than the ones I just mentioned that produce too much acid, and that's just a breeding ground in your gut for disease.
What about the apple vinegar they talk about?
Apple cider vinegar.
Apple cider
Bragg's
vinegar.
organic apple
that
cider
helps
vinegar. So diet is significantly important, and for me it's a struggle. Some processed food, I mean, you go to the supermarket, there's always something. So is there any processed food that we can eat?
That's a really great question, actually. Well, because think about how many things are processed, right?
Yeah.
Like even a bag of lettuce is processed in
Wow.
some way. Not that they're pouring sugar and making it from something that it wasn't, the way like GMOs are, but it's, it's packaged. It has to go through a process. So as far as packaged food that I do eat, me personally, I only eat packaged food, very little, very small percentage, only because I don't want to be covered in spots. I am more confident and more happy
Right.
and joyful in my life eating
Okay.
less of that food. So I honestly wouldn't recommend, if people are suffering and they're trying to heal, I would
Yes.
try to recommend to just buy things without a label.
Okay, so outside of food, what else? What cured you?
Self-love. That's where
Now, what do you
self-love
mean
comes
by
in.
self-love?
But it's no joke. It's no
Yeah.
joke. When you make your happiness a priority, that's what it's about. When you care enough to do that, when you care enough to do that, you start, you change your unhealthy eating habits. You remove toxic people from your life. You remove chemicals from your life. And when you do that, you're just taking those steps towards loving yourself enough to heal.
Now, wait. Let's step back for a second. What do you mean by toxic people from your life?
Where's the cutoff for toxic or not toxic people?
Exactly.
That's true, because we all have emotions and it's very healthy to feel all of them, right? So I think mostly everyone can understand and relate to having those people in your life who are constantly complaining, constantly looking at the negative, choosing unhappiness over happiness, just choosing the negativity, because negativity just breeds negativity, and having that around you and that energy, it affects you. It affects
Right.
you on all levels. If you think about being like in school and you go into a classroom and the teacher's in a really bad mood, how does that affect all the students that day?
So if you want to get rid of psoriasis, we have to start being conscious about our language and how we speak and how people speak to us,
Yes.
and guide a positive approach.
Yes, because it's not just the people outside of us, it's us.
We have to be aware first. If
Yes.
we're not aware, we can't make progress in that positive.
Exactly. We have to make the change first. When I help clients heal their skin, one big thing I have them focus on is incorporating one act of self-love into their daily schedule. Because, sorry.
When you say this, everybody thinks psoriasis is only something superficial. It can't be that important. Out of curiosity, who's somebody famous that has psoriasis?
That's a great question, because Kim Kardashian, as many of you know, she has psoriasis, and she just tweeted a week or two ago that she now has it on her face.
Wow.
And for this disease, and most people, they're so ashamed about it. They hide it from their family and friends. And to see a celebrity send a tweet like that to millions of people warmed my heart, because it needs to be talked about. Talking is medicine.
Right, and you would be able to coach her to help her through psoriasis, right? This
Absolutely.
is your ability.
This is my mission in life.
Don't worry,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Kim's going to get in contact with you very soon. Okay, on that note, can you just give our audience one quick takeaway of an example of self-love?
Yes, like I said before, incorporating one small act of self-love into your daily schedule.
So what do I
for
do?
me,
What does that look
well,
like?
I'll just give you one example. For me, I say I love you to my skin on a daily basis. I look at it lovingly, because most of us with a skin condition, we look at our skin, we have hate. We're filled with hate. We look at it, we're disgusted. It makes us feel ashamed. It makes us feel less than. So just by simply just choosing to focus on loving it with or without the spots, just show it love. Thank it for working so hard for you to eliminate. It's eliminating toxins. It's working hard.
So it's really having gratitude for
Yes.
anything. Having gratitude.
Exactly.
Okay.
Gratitude.
And how long
good.
does that take to be effective? How long did you notice things start changing for you when you started applying what you do in your book?
I love that question, because my first year on this journey, I healed myself through food, and that took me, after having the disease 16 years at that point, it took me 10 months to heal.
That's fantastic.
10 months through food and
Through
then the
food
self-love?
only. But a few years later, when my psoriasis returned from stress and life, I realized that same diet wasn't working. And I had so much stress in my life at the time, and I had just had surgery, I was on medication, there was all this mix of negative stuff. And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, food is not,
Enough.
nutrition's not just food. Nutrition is not just food. It's having healthy relationships. It's having all these healthy primary relationships with food, with our bodies, with money, having hobbies you enjoy, having healthy relationships with people. All these things nourish us way more than food does.
Well, Kim, thank you so much, because that is very helpful information. Our time is completely up, and we will have you back in the future.
Welcome to Beyond My Crisis. I'm your co-host, Ron Rossnick.
And I'm Vivian Gaspar. We're here today to talk about something that most people are avoiding. How does someone with the chronic illness, especially one that puts them in debilitating pain, deal for the rest of their lives to get beyond their crisis? Well, here with us today, we have someone who's very special, and we're so honored that Carla Basante is here. She's a single mom, and more importantly, she is a sufferer of MS the last 20 years and deals with it for the rest of her life with the assistance of medical cannabis. Thank you so much, Carla, for coming on and educating our viewers, because so much misinformation is out there, and we just want to enlighten everyone as to what the real facts are. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you seriously so much for having me, both of you. It's such an honor, honestly, to be here and to talk about a subject that I'm really, really compassionate about.
We're happy you're an advocate, because it is something that needs to come out to the forefront.
So, how long have you suffered with multiple sclerosis? I can't even pronounce it.
It's okay. It's a tough one. No, it's a tough one. Since 1997. Yeah.
The worst condition that you've personally been in, what was life like?
Being a mom, that's probably like the worst issue to deal, and a single mom to deal with, having a handicap while raising a child, because you can't do the things that you always thought you were going to be able to do.
Well, specifically, what can't you do anymore?
Well, I can't run, I can't skip, I can't jump, I can't dance the way I used to. Sometimes I can't walk the way that I used to.
You also mentioned to me prior to us getting on to the studio here is that you also had to deal with a back surgery. Tell us,
Correct.
how did that complicate your MS?
It was kind of like a vicious cycle with walking, because with MS, your gait changes, your walking patterns change, and then having the back surgery, it also conflicts with that as well. So I was compromised dually from the back and also the multiple sclerosis.
So the doctors then prescribed you what medication? What was it doing for you? How was it making your life?
It was when years ago, actually back in 1997, that's when my back was injured as well. I was prescribed narcotics and opiates like there was no tomorrow, and still up to
like OxyContin,
hydrocodone, Percocet, and like
Vicodin.
Valiums, Vicodin.
Wow. So did you become reliant on these just to exist on a day-to-day?
Well, I tried. There were some, yes, at times when the doctor prescribed it and I thought that it was needed. But then I also would take 600 milligrams of Tylenol a day.
600, wait, let's take a step back. What does 600 milligrams really represent? Most people, when they take Tylenol, they take 2 for a fever or a slight back pain. Mm-hmm. How many milligrams does that represent in contrast with your 600? Let's give people a really good idea of what that looks like.
As the 600 milligrams, I mean, for me, that was the only amount that I could take that would relieve the pain that I was having.
How many pills is that usually?
3.
That's 3 pills.
If you have 200 milligram
but
pills.
in the course of a day, you were taking other pharmacological.
Oh, correct. That was just.
Okay.
That's just one aspect.
So in one day, how many pills would you take?
8.
And today, how many pills are you taking?
None.
None. So how did that change take place? When did this happen
What
to you?
discovery?
Well, because I was being a mom first off, and with the laws in place for cannabis, I started to research and educate myself in regards to cannabis, because I did it recreationally. And I thought, they're saying cannabis can work and replace or help all of these conditions that I'm suffering from. Let me educate myself on it. So I started to wean myself off the opiates and narcotics and to increase my cannabis. So that's really how.
Now, narcotics have side effects,
How
right?
did you find out about cannabis? Where did that discovery come from?
Because I already did it recreationally, and because I just knew through the proverbial grapevine of painkillers, what people were using, and I thought, maybe this is an option for me.
But we want to get a very clear picture in one aspect here. You have prescription medication like the oxycodone and so
All
forth.
of them, yeah.
So my question is, what are the side effects? I mean, we hear all prescriptions have side effects, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Narcotics.
Oh,
what
yeah.
kind of side effect did that cause you for you?
Oh, it actually changed me as a person. It was my personality changed too, because it can affect your thinking process. It can affect your organs, your blood pressure, your heart rate. All of these different things it can affect, and that's long term. And long term usage for things like that, it's going to affect your body more.
And opiates are addictive. So
Very
were you
addictive.
addicted to these?
I wouldn't say I was addicted because I was very conscious of what I was doing.
Okay.
To the point where when doctors are prescribed it, I'm like, I don't want any more prescriptions. Don't prescribe this to me. You know, you look at commercials today where they have like the cartoony character saying, you know, because there's, you know, too many opiates and it causes, you know,
Oh,
so
yeah.
okay.
Right,
So
I
it's
remember.
like, so then you're going to take another drug because of all the other drugs that you're taking. And that's, maybe, Ron, that's where it clicked in with all of these drugs. When you had side effects from these other drugs, they were also prescribing other drugs for the drugs. And maybe
Oh my
that
God,
was the
it's just
point
a
that it
vicious
clicked
cycle.
in. Yeah.
So when you started replacing cannabis for those drugs, did you see those side effects dissipate?
Oh, yeah.
Let's
So
find out
how
about
long
that.
how long ago did you make this switch?
5, 6 years ago.
And how much cannabis do you need? I mean, how much do you have to consume?
You know, well, it really varies right now because, you know, cannabis can be taken in several different forms, whether
And you
it's
have a device
this is,
here.
Yes, this is a vape pen, and
Hold it up.
this is vaping.
What does that mean, vaping, for those of us who don't
Well,
know anything
okay,
about it?
but the vaping is, you know, very big because a lot of people were doing that with tobacco. Basically, it's just a heating element, so there's no flame introduced to the cannabis. So there's that eliminates the carcinogen factor of a lighter.
Right. So my understanding is it heats up but doesn't burn
Correct.
the material.
It brings it to
about
the right
100
temperature.
180 degrees or so.
This is 350 degrees.
350,
Yeah,
okay.
the one that I have this set for right now.
And it activates the
activates.
cannabinoid.
It opens it up.
cannabinoids?
It
Yeah.
opens it up. It I can never say this word correctly. It opens it up.
Right.
It introduces the heating element, correct? Because that's how the cannabinoids THCA will become THC, or CBDA will become
Wait.
CBD.
Yeah, you're giving all
So
these.
THCA and THCB and CBD are the three major components that
that people
help you
that people recognize the
inside
most.
marijuana.
Right, but there's several other cannabinoids within the cannabis plants that also help as well, as in regards to inflammation, pain, discomfort. I mean, you know, I can't stop eating. For anybody who has a problem with eating, if they're undergoing any other treatment, for a while there, after having surgery, I had no appetite, but I needed to eat. Introducing cannabis, then I will have an appetite to eat.
So what have you been able to do now that you're using cannabis, marijuana, instead of the drugs? What changed?
Oh, I could do so much more. I am so much more productive than I think I've ever been.
Mentally as well?
Mentally, physically, yes, absolutely. It doesn't cloud my mind.
Do you feel that it's really increased who you are as a person again? Do you feel like
Oh,
your
yeah.
old you, the old self coming
As much
through?
as I can get to a place, a new me, with different things and approach it at a different level.
Now you were able to get this legally. You have
Correct.
this card from the state of New Jersey
Mm-hmm.
because it's legal state by state, but not federally right
Correct,
now.
correct. It's still Scheduled 1 narcotic, correct.
So wait a second. How long ago did it become legal in New Jersey for medical purposes?
Oh, 2006?
Oh,
I think
so
2006,
it's been that long already,
yeah.
Okay.
11 years.
So you take this legally.
Correct.
And what are the obstacles? Do family, do friends, do
Any stigma?
your son is in school? Is there
Yeah.
any things that you are combating with the psychology of contrarians
Constantly.
against this
Constantly.
What is it
and
that
what
you're
and
hearing?
what would you want to say to someone like that? Someone that wants to
You know, my catchphrase usually is educate, don't discriminate.
That's great.
Because you really, once you educate yourself and find out exactly what the cannabis plant is really about and what it brings to so many people for different health reasons, you'd be surprised and relieved at the same time, and understand that a lot of the reasons in regards to why the name changed to marijuana years ago. Once you research it and educate yourself, I mean, I could tell people this at face value, and they're going to say, oh, okay, sure. But not until you really take the time to look at it, what it's worth. I mean, you can get a prescription bottle. You'll trust your doctor to write a script for a pain medicine that you maybe heard of, maybe not. You'll fill that prescription, take it home, open the bottle, take as prescribed, but do you really know what's in that pill? Are you
I don't think most people do.
Exactly.
They just trust blindly.
Exactly.
So then the problem is because people trust blindly, but they're also trusting stigma that's negative. They've been brought up their entire lives in the multi-generations that we have.
Exactly.
And to hear all this negative connotations with this, and now you're fighting the battle
It's
to
yeah.
remove
But
the stigma.
there's enough intelligence. The state has agreed that medical marijuana is legal.
I believe
So
that.
there's smart people in New Jersey.
Correct.
And we still have to educate the
Absolutely.
balance of the
Yeah,
population,
absolutely.
the benefits. I think some people think, oh, you're getting a medical marijuana card, but you really enjoy it recreationally.
It's so tough. I mean, even like being friends with restaurants years ago, and I would say, you know, when they have an alcoholic drink, and they're like, would you like one? I'm like, no, I'm good. I've already medicated it. And I'm like, you know, I had the medical cannabis. Shh, don't say anything. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? They're shushing me about saying I had medical cannabis. I'm like, all right. But then you just sit there and go, all right, because you're at a setting where, you know.
Because they have fear.
They have fear.
And I know there's an acronym for fear, false evidence appearing real.
Yes, absolutely. But then what you were saying too, in regards to my son's living in a day and age right now where there's still signs in his school that say something corresponding to marijuana doesn't lead to heroin, but
Gateway drug.
It's a gateway drug. And so I've educated my son for the longest time, so he knows exactly what is going on and why mommy is doing this. This is because, and I've showed him, mom is not taking these pills anymore, and this is why I'm doing it. But it's still tough for him in the school
Have you
atmosphere.
been discriminated against by the school system or
No.
by any administrative faculty in the state
No.
of New Jersey?
No.
You know, like DCP&P, it used to be called DIFUS, they are not advocates for marijuana. As a matter of fact, apparently if a woman has marijuana in her system when she gives birth, that baby is taken away by the state.
Oh my gosh.
I really didn't know that happened to a woman, that they took her child away in the state of New Jersey.
Yes.
I know that it's happened in other states where it's still happening,
Yes.
actually. I don't know if that happened prior to the medical cannabis taking effect.
It happened after, but so this person was doing it recreationally without the medical.
So there you go.
Okay.
See, that's
So they
another
construe
thing.
it
They can federally,
differently.
right? And that's the stigmatism and the fears that we're all facing as medical cannabis patients, because it's against federal law.
So people want to know, what does medical cannabis really look like? You have here with us a pouch, if I may. Tell us, what can you tell us about this? Where do you buy it? How much does it cost? Is it different pricing for people? How is the prices created? What can you tell us about
Well,
it?
there's several different dispensaries in the state of New Jersey, and I go to Compassionate Sciences down in Belmar, New Jersey.
And it's a private company?
To ask right now, I'm not sure that answer, so I can't give
Okay.
you a factual answer.
From my
So, yeah,
knowledge, they are all
Compassionate
private companies
Science.
regulated by the state
They
of New
are
Jersey.
all regulated by the state of New Jersey,
And there's
correct.
about 4 of them in the state right now.
Correct.
And they have to do jump through hoops to make
Right,
this happen.
but
so there's no bacteria, no microbials.
Oh yeah, everything
and
is
it's a very
everything very clean,
Yeah.
with the Compassionate Sciences down in Belmar, they have the growing rooms and all of that. But they also provide such educational information in
Right.
regards to
You
patients.
sent me this packet.
Yeah, they're
Excellent.
incredible, and they're actually going to be coming up. I'm doing a self-help group. They're actually doing a program there to explain what it is from seed to harvest, to the different plants, to the different properties, the cannabinoids properties that we were talking about with the THC, and the CBD. So they educate people, and that's the thing. They're so well on educating people that's a primary thing that I want to do.
So you're an advocate. Who
Correct.
should get a medical marijuana card?
Well, the thing is, in New Jersey, there's only, and it's listed, only several illnesses that can get a medical marijuana card. We're trying to get more illnesses, but right now with everything that's going on in the government.
I understand the scope of getting it is not quite as difficult. If you have a back problem, you can get it, right? Any skeletal issues?
Skeletal issues, there's a list of that's included there, but like MS, cancer, it's a muscular atrophy, so there are several, but there are several that should be on there that aren't on there yet.
Let me ask you, I understand we're talking about New Jersey right now, but what about the surrounding states? Do you happen to know what the regulations are, for example, in Pennsylvania, New York, just out of curiosity?
Not off the top of my head, to be honest with you, because I need to focus what's going on in our own state.
Right.
And there's that incredible group that I talked to you about, Americans for Safe Access, which is America's largest group trying to, oh my God, promote, I can't even believe I'm
Safe
slurring.
cannabis use.
Safe cannabis use for therapeutic and research.
So what's the name of this company again?
America for Safe Access.
America
it's an
for
organization,
Safe Access.
correct.
And that's anyone with a health disorder can consult them, and it's free of charge?
Well, Americans for Safe Access is actually a movement, you could say, because they're trying to see what regulations that can be brought, it's made around the country. So it's made up of doctors, lawyers, scientists, patients like myself, and it's a variety of group of people, like I said, so people can use medical cannabis for therapeutic reasons and also research, because research definitely still needs to be done, so then we could say, fact, this is shown that this helps this illness, this can cure this illness, and this could provide this. So we need to have the research in medical cannabis as well.
So in a wrap-up, what's the most significant advice you can offer our viewing audience regarding medical marijuana and using it on a daily basis?
Educate yourself. Really, that is the most important part, because it's a plant.
It's a plant that
and our
has-
body works
But
with
you
it.
recommend it for MS,
Of
and
course
you
I
want
do.
anyone that has MS, you would say
I
go.
would recommend it for people with a variety of different illnesses: cancer, MS,
Is there-
ALS.
Is there an age that they should or should not use it? I mean, what is the youngest
All dependent
user
upon
and the oldest
all
user
dependent
you know?
upon the illness. When I met people out with the Americans for Safe Access conference in Washington, my roommate is a woman from Jersey, and her daughter has Dravet syndrome. So she has her daughter's
Tourette's?
Dravet.
Dravet, what is that?
It's like an epileptic disorder.
I see.
And she makes her daughter's medicine. She had to figure out what is it, THC or CBD. She has to do all of that to make her medicine for her daughter, so she doesn't have the seizures the way that she does. So that's a young age. So it
How old
depends
is her
upon the
daughter,
illness.
did you say?
I think Jenna just turned 12.
Oh, okay.
And for kids, they're not allowed to smoke it, but they could use oils.
It's the oils.
Right.
So where
Correct.
do you apply the oil? Is it topical oil?
Well, you could use a topical oil, or you can ingest it as
There's
well.
sublingual oil underneath
You
your
could do
tongue.
that. That's one. Or you could just make the oil with the coconut oil, cannabis, and butter, and then you can incorporate it in your foods while you're still digesting the same amount that's needed, as long as you measure out what you believe you need. Again, that's what comes into regulation. It does need to be regulated no matter what.
Right.
Well, this has been very enlightening. Oh my gosh, I've actually had never known anything. And my aunt actually, who lives in New York State, did mention it's legal. The problem is there's so few, I think it's called dispensaries.
Correct.
That sell them by her. She lives up in the Catskill.
Yeah.
She's 76 years old and lives in extremely condition of chronic pain with a lot of back surgeries.
Yeah.
And she just doesn't find the easy access. So if they only made it more, I mean, they can't ship it from what I understand. It's not like you could
Correct.
have it mailed.
You can't cross state lines.
It's
No,
a big
'cause every
topic. We
state-
have so much that we
Yeah.
can cover on this, and we're gonna bring this up in the future.
Great.
So maybe you
I'm
could
glad.
come on back and educate
Oh my
us
God,
some
seriously,
more.
that would be
That'd
great.
fantastic.
Thank you so
much.